FIFA wants to transform the business behind the World Cup. Its proposal would create a new commercial company valued at approximately $20 billion. Private investors could purchase up to 20% of that company. FIFA says the arrangement could raise as much as $4.2 billion and unlock unprecedented investment for football associations throughout the world. But the announcement has produced a rapidly growing backlash. UEFA says the World Cup is not FIFA's property to sell. The Asian Football Confederation and CONCACAF say they were not properly consulted. The English Football Association says it has no substantive information about the proposal before it became public. Players' representatives, European clubs, and several national associations have also raised concerns about transparency, governance, and the influence of private capital. Meanwhile, FIFA's 211 member associations have reportedly been given until the 19th of September to consider an offer that could provide each of them with as much as $20 million in additional funding. So, is FIFA democratising football's enormous wealth? Are wealthy European organisations simply protecting their own power? Or is the future of the World Cup being rushed towards private investors before the people responsible for football have fully understood what is being proposed? Welcome to the Football Brief from the Nelson Brief, where we explain the context behind the game. This is FIFA's $20 billion plan and the battle over whether world football is for sale. The proposal centres upon a new company called FIFA Forward Enterprise, or FFE. FIFA says this company would oversee the commercial and event operations connected to its competitions. That could include broadcasting rights, sponsorships, ticketing, hospitality, licensing, and the organisation surrounding events such as the Men's and Women's World Cups and the Club World Cup. The new business would have an implied valuation of approximately $20 billion. FIFA would invite external investors to purchase minority, non controlling stakes totaling up to 20%. That could raise as much as $4.2 billion in initial capital. FIFA insists that it would retain control. It says FIFA would maintain majority representation on the company's board and keep exclusive authority over football regulations, competitions, the international calendar, and sporting decisions. In other words, investors would purchase part of the commercial operation, but they would not formally decide who hosts the World Cup, how the tournament is structured, or which regulations govern the game. The proposal has not yet been finally approved. FIFA says it will proceed only if the majority of its 211 member associations support the structure and the FIFA Council approves the necessary regulatory changes. FIFA already generates billions of dollars through broadcasting, sponsorship, and commercial agreements. The World Cup is one of the most valuable sporting events on earth, but much of FIFA's income arrives in cycles connected to major tournaments. Selling a minority stake in its commercial subsidiary would allow FIFA to receive billions immediately, rather than waiting for future World Cup revenue to arrive gradually. That money could be invested, distributed, or used to expand the organisation's commercial activities. FIFA's public argument is based upon development. The wealthiest football nations possess major leagues, television contracts, sponsors, and modern stadiums. Many smaller associations do not. Some depend heavily upon FIFA funding to organise domestic competitions, build facilities, support national teams, and develop coaches, referees, women's footballs, and youth programmes. FIFA says the new company could increase total football development funding to more than $10 billion. President Gianni Infantino has described the proposal as a way of democratising football's wealth, ensuring that the financial success of the World Cup reaches countries that the commercial club game often overlooks. From FIFA's perspective, private investment would not remove money from football. It would allow FIFA to access future value now and distribute more of it throughout the global game. The latest developments have revealed that FIFA's proposal is not only about investors, it is also about the financial choice being presented to member associations. As part of the plan, FIFA would create the FIFA Fast Forward programme. Every one of its 211 associations would be offered the opportunity to apply for up to $20 million in one off capital. The money could support major projects such as national stadiums, academies, and training centres that might otherwise be impossible to fund through one ordinary development cycle. FIFA says participation would be voluntary, but an Associated Press report says Infantino has given the associations until the 19th of September 2026 to accept the opportunity. The same report says that if the wider plan is rejected, associations would receive the previously promised $10 million over the following 4 year cycle instead. For a wealthy European association, the additional money would be welcome. For a small or developing football nation, it could transform the national game. It might finance facilities, competitions, and programs that could never be supported through domestic revenue alone. But the offer also creates a serious governance question. Can an association independently examine FIFA's proposal when rejecting it could mean losing access to millions of dollars? FIFA would argue that it is simply explaining the benefits members could receive. UEFA argues that attaching a deadline and a major financial opportunity places associations under pressure to support a historic restructuring before they have been given enough time and information to understand it. The vote may therefore become more than a decision about private investment. It could become a choice between accepting an uncertain commercial structure and refusing funding that many associations cannot easily afford to lose. When FIFA first announced the proposal, the loudest criticism came from UEFA. That made it possible to portray the dispute as another stage in the long running battle between FIFA and wealthy European football. But the opposition has now spread far beyond UEFA. CONCACAF, which represents North America, Central America, and the Caribbean, said it learned about the detailed proposal through media reports and a later public announcement. It criticised the lack of due process and said major decisions should involve proper governance and consultation. The Asian Football Confederation also expressed disappointment that a proposal of such importance entered the public domain before its own members had been given an opportunity to examine it. The AFC called for sufficient information and time to consider the legal, commercial, strategic, and governance consequences. The English FA said it had been completely unaware of the plan and possessed no substantive information about either the proposal or the conditions attached to it. The French, Danish, Swedish, Dutch, and Romanian associations have also raised concerns. FIFA Pro Europe warned that transforming World Cup competitions into investable assets could permanently change the financial incentives influencing events in which players work. European football clubs, which represents hundreds of clubs, criticised the unilateral announcement and argue that clubs should have been consulted. This matters because FIFA can no longer dismiss the criticism as Europe refusing to share football's wealth. Associations and confederations from several regions are asking the same basic question. How did FIFA develop a $20 billion restructuring of global football before discussing it properly with many of the organisations expected to approve it? The opposition is significant, but is not universal. The president of the Czech Football Association has said he can see practical benefits in cooperating with FIFA and believe its programs have supported football development. Other associations may reach the same conclusion. For many countries, this is not an abstract debate about corporate structures. It is a question of whether FIFA can provide the money required to build pitches, employ coaches, and create opportunities for players. Europe generates extraordinary wealth through its domestic leagues and UEFA competitions. Reuters reported that UEFA's leading club competitions generated approximately €4.4 billion during the 2024 25 season, while European football as a whole generated more than €40 billion. Most football nations do not possess anything comparable. From their perspective, European criticism can appear selective. European organisations defend the principle that football should not be controlled by commercial interests, while operating competitions worth billions and expanding those competitions to generate additional revenue. FIFA can therefore argue that UEFA is not protecting football from money. It is protecting the enormous share of football's money currently concentrated in Europe. The proposal may consequently appeal to associations that believe the existing system already serves wealthy leagues and clubs better than the rest of the world. Private investors do not normally provide billions of dollars without expecting a financial return. A stake in FIFA Forward Enterprise would provide exposure to one of sport's most valuable collections of commercial rights. The World Cup generates income through broadcasters, sponsors, ticket sales, hospitality, licensing, and digital content across almost every major market. FIFA has also been expanding its competition portfolio. The Men's World Cup increased from 32 to 48 countries in 2026. The Club World Cup has been transformed into a much larger global tournament. Further expansion, including discussion of a possible 64-team World Cup in 2030, could create even more matches, content, and commercial inventory. Thrive Eternal, a permanent capital investment company connected to Joshua Kushner's Thrive Capital, is expected to lead the proposed investor group. JP Morgan has been engaged to work with FIFA on the process, while FIFA says investors would be selected according to long term governance and strategic criteria. Investors could therefore be purchasing part of a business with enormous global recognition and considerable room for commercial growth. That is precisely why critics are worried. Investors increase their returns when revenue rises. A football governing body must sometimes make decisions that reduce revenue to protect players, supporters, or the integrity of competition. The central concern is what happens when those objectives conflict. FIFA says the distinction is clear. Investors would hold minority, non controlling stakes. FIFA would retain authority over regulations, tournament formats, calendars, and sporting decisions. An investor could not officially order FIFA to expand the World Cup or create another Club World Cup, but formal control is not the only form of influence. Once investors have placed billions into the company, FIFA will know that its sporting decisions affect the company's value. Suppose FIFA considered reducing the number of matches to protect player welfare. That could reduce broadcasting and sponsorship income. Suppose it wanted to lower ticket prices. That could weaken projected revenue. Suppose the proposed tournament expansion could significantly increase the value of the commercial company. Would FIFA assess that decision entirely as a governing body or partly as the majority owner of a business with private shareholders? Investors may also receive contractual protections, information rights, and expectations about long term performance. None of this proves that they would control FIFA. It demonstrates why the full shareholder agreements and governance structure matter. FIFA is asking football to trust that the commercial subsidiary and the sporting authority would remain separate. Its critics are asking whether that separation can survive when every sporting decision carries a financial consequence. This is an influence from the structure FIFA has described rather than evidence that investors have already influenced any sporting decision. The document also reflects a much older struggle for power. Europe contains many of the world's richest clubs, leagues, and television markets. UEFA controls the Champions League, the European Championship, and other commercially valuable competitions. FIFA controls the World Cup, the Club World Cup, and the regulatory structure connecting football's national associations. Both organisations want calendar space, sponsors, broadcasters, and global attention. FIFA's political strength comes from its worldwide membership. Each national association participates in FIFA's decision making regardless of whether it represents a football superpower or a small island nation. Europe cannot simply impose its will because it generates the most money. FIFA has spent decades expanding football beyond Europe and South America, increasing World Cup participation and directing money towards Africa, Asia, Oceania, and the Americas. UEFA fears that an investor backed FIFA commercial operation could expand tournaments and compete more aggressively with European football. FIFA can respond that Europe has enjoyed a dominant position for too long and is resisting any attempt to distribute power and money more widely. Both positions contain self interest. FIFA may generally want global development while also seeking greater commercial authority. UEFA may raise legitimate governance objections while also defending competitions worth billions. The disagreement is not simply football against money, it is a battle over which organisation controls the money and how that wealth should be distributed. The immediate proposal concerns ownership of commercial operations. Its long term effects could reach much further. Private investors normally increase the value of a business by generating more income. In football, that can mean more matches, larger tournaments, additional sponsorship agreements, and higher value hospitality products. Players already compete across domestic leagues, cups, continental competitions, international qualifiers, and global tournaments. FIFA Pro Europe fears that making FIFA competitions investable assets could increase the commercial incentives for further expansion. Supporters could also be affected. Higher commercial valuations may encourage more premium ticketing, expensive hospitality, and tournament formats designed around broadcasting rather than travelling fans. On the other hand, increased investment could improve tournaments, expand women's and youth football, and create opportunities in countries that have historically received little football funding. Private capital is not automatically harmful. The question is what investors are promised and how FIFA balances their interests against those of players, supporters, and competitions. Football's commercial success can fund development, but when commercial growth becomes an objective in itself, there may never be a point at which the game is considered large enough. The plan still requires approval. FIFA says a majority of its 211 associations must support the new structure, while the FIFA Council must approve the necessary regulatory changes. That gives national associations the formal power to stop it, but the political balance is complicated. Europe has influence, money, and many of football's largest national teams. Yet Europe represents only one part of FIFA's global membership. Associations in smaller and less wealthy markets may consider the development funding more important than European concerns about private ownership. Opponents could attempt to delay the process, demand more information, or organise a coordinated vote against the proposal. They could also explore legal action if the structure appears to conflict with competition law or football governance rules. The September deadline creates urgency. Associations must decide whether to accept the funding opportunity while the full commercial agreements and investor group are still developing. The immediate battle will therefore concern transparency. What rights would investors possess? How could their shares later be sold? Could broadcasters, sovereign wealth funds, or organisations linked to tournament hosts become shareholders? What happens if the business performs badly? Could FIFA repurchase the shares? And what legal protections would stop commercial interests from influencing sporting decisions? Until those questions are answered, associations are being asked to approve not only an investment, they're being asked to approve the framework within which future investors may shape the economics of world football. So, is FIFA selling world football? Not completely. The proposal would not sell FIFA itself. It would not immediately give investors control over football's regulations or tournament formats. FIFA would remain the majority owner of the new company and says it would preserve exclusive authority over sporting decisions. But the proposal still represents a profound change. Private investors could own a direct share in the commercial operation behind the World Cup and other FIFA competitions. FIFA says this would release billions for football development and allow every association to benefit from the game's global success. Its critics say the plan has been developed without adequate consultation, tied to a financial deadline, and announced before many stakeholders possess the information needed to evaluate it. The strongest argument for the proposal is difficult to dismiss. Football's wealth is heavily concentrated. Thousands of communities could benefit from facilities, coaching, and opportunities financed through additional investment. But the greatest concern is equally serious. Investors do not provide billions merely because they love football. They expect the asset to become more valuable. That creates a question FIFA has not yet fully answered. Can the organisation protect the interests of players, supporters, and member associations while also protecting the financial expectation of private shareholders? Or once part of the World Cup becomes an investment, will every future decision be influenced by what makes that investment grow? FIFA describes the plan as the democratisation of football's wealth. Its opponents see the beginning of football's crown jewel being partially privatised. The decision now belongs, at least formally, to 211 national associations. Their votes may determine whether the World Cup remains entirely within football's institutional structure or becomes an asset partly owned by the world of private capital. This has been the Football Brief from the Nelson Brief, giving you the context behind the game. Would private investment spread football's wealth more fairly, or is the World Cup something that no governing body should ever be entitled to sell? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more videos covering football, history, politics, and current affairs.